The member for Bradfield.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, last week I held a community meeting in my electorate, and one of the issues which was raised by a number of people present was concerns about the purchase by Chinese interests of agricultural land, including particularly for mining purposes. Now, we had a good discussion at that meeting, and a range of views were expressed, including a number of people highlighting the importance to Australia of foreign investment. This issue has been one that's been getting a lot of scrutiny recently, and I want to make three key points in the brief time available. Firstly, to welcome some of the additional scrutiny. Secondly, just to make a key point about the two issues involved. On the one hand, foreign ownership, and on the other hand, the impact of mining on agricultural land. And thirdly, I want to highlight the importance of foreign investment. Let me start by saying that I welcome the fact that there are a range of processes underway to give greater policy scrutiny to these questions, including, of course, particularly the fact that the Coalition has established a working group to deal with this issue. I want, though, to make the point that there are two conceptually separate issues which can sometimes get bundled together as the one issue. The first issue is the general question of foreign ownership of Australian assets, including agricultural land, amongst a range of other assets based or located in Australia. That is one issue. The second issue, which is a conceptually distinct issue, is the impact of mining on agricultural land. There's been a range of concerns expressed about this issue by residents of affected communities, and this is an issue which, like many others, can always be susceptible of further investigation. I do think it is important, though, that we don't automatically conflate the two issues and assume that the central question in thinking about the impact of mining on agricultural land is the ownership of the mining company. It seems to me the central question is the trade-off between the competing uses of land. And as I've indicated, I certainly welcome the fact that there is scrutiny of both sets of issues. Once that process has been worked through, then no doubt there'll be some recommendations to consider. The final point I want to make, though, is to highlight the importance of foreign investment in the Australian economy, and therefore to note that that is a factor that we should pay very careful regard to as we think about the question of foreign ownership of any kind of asset, including Australian agricultural assets. Australia is a net importer of capital. In March 2011, the net inflow was $780 billion. Outflows of capital were $1.24 trillion. Inflows were $2.02 trillion. In other words, a lot more money came in than went out. And it is, I think, quite self-evident when you look at the Australian economy and the prosperity that we enjoy, that a significant contributor to that prosperity has been foreign investment. It's also worth making the point that that foreign investment comes from a wide range of countries. In 2009, the stock of total foreign investment was $3,200 billion. Of that, 27% was from the US, 26% from the UK, and the third biggest source was Japan at 5.4%. If we ask what were the inflows in the year 2009 of total foreign investment, the inflows in that year were $160 billion, and of that, $94 billion came from the US and $34 billion came from the UK. So the Australian economy has always depended very heavily on the inflow of foreign capital, and the prosperity of Australia and its people is heavily dependent upon continuing, I would argue, to have a set of policies and a set of frameworks which are attractive to foreign capital. We are competing with many other countries around the world for investment, and that is a factor that we need to bear in mind as we weigh up all of the considerations in this set of issues that I have raised, a set of issues which is attracting continuing public scrutiny and where there is properly policy scrutiny. We must bear in mind, I would argue, the importance of foreign investment to Australia's prosperity.